In session 2, we delve into a crucial aspect of our lives on planet Earth. We'll explore the challenges faced by carbon credit solutions and the future of the carbon credit markets, innovations in carbon credit, methodologies. It is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest speakers for this session.
First, we have Dr. Wyn Ellis, Executive Director of the Sustainable Rice Platform, with a PhD in Sustainable Agriculture from Chulalongkorn University in Thailand and an MA in Development Studies from Oxford University. In the UK, Dr. Ellis brings a wealth of expertise to the table. His 38 years of experience in Asia working with the UN agencies, development agencies, and private clients have made him an authority on organic agriculture, sustainable food systems, climate change, and certification schemes. Please welcome him to the stage.
Next, we welcome Mr. Thirach Rungruangkanokku, Executive Director of Agriculture and Food Marketing Association for Asia and the Pacific. With over 20 years of experience in the food and agriculture sector, Mr. Thirach has played key roles as an advisor chair and strategic advisor.
Please welcome him
on stage.
Lastly, we have Pathorn, a seasoned senior software engineer and solution architect with a strong background in the information technology and services industry. Pathorn is well-versed in blockchain technology, particularly Hashgraph, Ethereum, Hyperledger, Fabric, Tendermint, and Corda. He has been instrumental in developing the Guardian ecosystem, which provides a carbon credit and sustainability ecosystem. Thank you.
This panel will be moderated by Michelle Irawan, the Tuna Girl, Head of Partnerships Indonesia, Corpstage.
Good morning. How is everybody feeling? This is an exciting time for carbon credit. I think the future of the carbon credit is in a transition, and we would like to debunk it a little bit and learn more of your expertise, especially in the innovations and the methodologies, how to measure it. Let's start with each of your sustainable journey and what kind of innovation in the carbon market have you seen in each of your sector? Mr. Wyn, we can start.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be here. I represent the Sustainable Rice Platform, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative, so I was very interested to hear about the discussion on collaboration this morning. We have 110 institutional members covering the entire stakeholder spectrum for UN agencies, civil society organizations, research, and everything in between. So, we have some very long conversations. Rice is, for those of you who are not engaged in the sector, critical to global food security. It feeds half the world's population. So it came as a big surprise to us that when sustainability initiatives in palm oil, in coffee, and cocoa have been with us now for around about 30 years and have done a lot to change the way we procure these commodities and consume them. In rice, that hasn't been the case. There was nothing on a commodity with such an incredibly big sustainability footprint that it dwarfs that of all those other commodities combined. And that's the reason why we set up the Sustainable Rice Platform. It was really driven by United Nations Environment Programme and the International Rice Research Institute. And I've been with the organization since 2013. We have developed the world's first voluntary standard for sustainable rice. And we'll speak a bit more about the role of standards in driving transformation during the course of this discussion, I think. because standards have a value, but they're not the panacea. But we developed this standard, and it brought together these different stakeholders to create a definition, a working definition of what we mean by sustainability in the rice sector. And that's foundational because it doesn't just drive sustainable procurement, it drives policy, it supports green finance. And we can also talk a bit about that as well in the context of how it fits into the carbon market. I'll stop there, I think, and hand over to Dr. Thirach. Thank you.
I guess that I have
Yes.
some slide presentation briefly that
Yes.
you can have. Is it available? Yeah. Excuse me. Do you have it? Or you can have this one. Okay. Yes. Yes, good afternoon. I'm Thirach Rungruangkanokku. I'm the Executive Director of the Agriculture and Food Marketing Association for Asia and Pacific. It's quite a long name, and I don't think you remember it. Just we call AFMA, and I have some information to share with you that we are talking about ESG. This morning, in the last 6 months, when we are leaving home, I think we experienced a different challenge from the PM 2.5 that bring Thailand and many cities in Asia to be world leader in the PM 2.5. We are also experiencing that also related to SDG 3 about good health and well-being is about climate action. And what you see here is the burning for the for corn, in which is actually not even for human being, it's for animal feed. This one. Okay, and talking about food and agriculture, all of us, we have to at least visit food 3 times a day, and it seems to be a victims of the climate change. It's part of it is because it's releasing the greenhouse gas, and other than that, it's also about poverty. It's about responsible consumption and production. It's releasing about 10% of the greenhouse gas emission, and part of it is also about modern slavery, surprisingly. And it's quite interesting for us to ask whether our food that we are having nowadays, is it part of the modern slavery or not? Sometimes it's the long value chain make it a little bit complicated. Okay, now I'd like to share with you about the innovative nature-based solution. And some of these solutions is actually, they are product innovation, process innovation, marketing information, and a lot of time it's about connecting the dots. If we look at this, we have the question whether, as the food producer, do we want to end the hunger first or end the poverty first? Why food producer trying to end the world hunger, but they are having difficulty to end their own poverty. But for this one, if we compare between different commodities, as Dr. Wyn mentioned, we have sugarcane, we have rice and cassava. From here, you see that the most profitable one is sugarcane, whether we like it or not. But that's the way that the return on investment for the food producer. And also, if we can end their poverty, we also can end the modern slavery as well. Now, the nature-based solution related to, we have all family about plans, about, if we want to end we take the climate action, we just plant more trees, but it's not that simple. If we look at the planting more trees, it's about photosynthesis, in which you have the so-called soil carbon sequestration. Whatever we see on the land is actually more carbon sink in the soil, but if we don't see it, we don't believe it. But there's a certain way for us to be able to verify it, to measure it. And also from the plant-based as a solution, it's not only about soil carbon sequestration. When the plant do photosynthesis, it's transform the light into carbon sink. and also to the microorganism into the soil biodiversity, and it's all related to ESG. And also part of it, from the agriculture, it produces a lot of bio-waste, and all bio-waste can be transformed to biochar. I think biochar, we talk about this for more than 20 years, and it's actually, if we trace it back, it's more than 3,000 years that the indigenous people in the South America has been using it and be able to enrich the soil and be able to build the sophisticated culture. By having this as a solution, having the so-called biochar paralysis, it's the closed system in which it will reduce the PM 2.5 and also will bring the good health well-being, generate income that to end the poverty, and also is part of the climate action as the carbon sequestration. Why we try to find a solution by sequester the carbon under the ocean at the seabed. Some of the solution is already in front of us, on our table, on our food. Talking about the biochar, you see that there are many experiments, including our own organization, having the plantation between no biochar with biochar, biochar with inorganic fertilizer, and inorganic fertilizer with biochar. And you see that the yield is much higher. And part of this sugarcane also, whether you decide to have it as a food or as the sustainable or regenerative energy, and this gives more option for the food producer. And part of it also, the byproduct, it's also to produce the bioplastic. And because of the zero waste, by using a very large number of bio-waste, that is trillion tons on Earth now, it's part of the responsible consumption and production. And this is how we transform the challenge to solution and also to a beautiful sustainability reporting. This is a little bit of the information about how we use the byproduct or the waste from the sugar industry to produce paper instead of cutting the trees. That is SDG 15 and also SDG 12. So all this is part of the so-called sustainable agro-food value chain. We see that a lot of solution is already there. We only be able to verify it and add some creativity into it and allow the smallholders, farmer or food producer to be more visible, to be able to be part of the solution. Yes, this is a brief introduction about the project that we've been working on, and by doing this, at least we can create the impact for 300,000 farming families in Thailand and in Asia, and this will be one of the sustainable solution. ขอบคุณครับ
Yes, that is very interesting discussion and information. Thank you, Dr. Thirach. So, yeah, thank you everyone for having me today. My name is Pathorn. I am a developer advocate from Slow Labs. So I come from technical background. It's quite interesting to learn more about these projects. So let me give you some introduction about what is exactly Hydra, right? So Hydra is a distributed ledger technology. You can think of it as like a superset of blockchain technology. Blockchain is just specific type of distributed ledger technology. And I would say that, our technology is industry agnostic, which means, anyone can use it for many, many use cases. However, we have realized that ESG and sustainability projects are a huge part of our ecosystem, right? And why? It makes sense, right? If you take a look at the project that Mr. Thirach just presented, right? There are a lot of data. There are a lot of methodology that you have to follow. And these data and methodology need to be more transparent and accessible to the public, right? So that's why, we have a lot of partners, especially technology partner, business partner, who build an application that do carbon emission tracking carbon credit tokenizations, or renewable energy tokenization, something like that, on our network. So basically, they use our technology to improve transparency of the process and methodology. So, and our aim is to become the trusted layer of the internet, or to be the tool for innovative methodology like this. So basically, you can bring more information to the public and then gain more trust into your project. And it's like win-win solutions. As a project sponsor, right? You need to get more insight on what on the project that you are supporting, and on the project developer side, you also want to share how much impact you are doing for the environment. So basically, I can see that a lot of sustainability projects start to adopt technology like blockchain or decentralized technology for this. And on the top of that, because we see the increasingly trend in sustainability, and we see a lot of projects in these regions, we also offer a software called Guardian, right? So Guardian is a framework that you can use to, digitize to a methodology. And once you develop your Guardian policy, something like that, it can be reused and shared and audited in the future. But that is how I see that blockchain or decentralized technology can bring innovation to sustainability project. But that is just an introduction. We can discuss more after this. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very interesting because I think, first of all, have you guys tried Guardian before?
I did, but I'm not sure.
No, as in like for each of your, part of your tools maybe, to kind of like include, to assess how you can get more integrated data and visibility on your large farmers ecosystem. So I mean, this is just a thought for collaborations, but I think I want to do a little bit different. Let's use a common case study here. Let's use the farmers as the case study, and I would like to understand a little bit more how each of your innovation can actually help these farmers to kind of like make them have access to this carbon credit. And also, how can we have a better data that actually end poverty and, kind of like scale the net profit to our soil and our planet Earth. And I'll start with you, Dr. Wyn. So voluntary sustainable standard has been with us actually for many commodities. What kind of sustainability concerns in the rice sectors, and how can your sustainable rice platform, right? P is for platform, sorry, yeah, new methodology can help address them. And what will be the biggest challenge for the farmers when they try to adopt it or be on your platform?
Thank you. There are two parts to this that I'd like to address separately. The first is, the utility and role of voluntary sustainability standards, and I alluded to this in my opening comments. And the second part is, basically what can farmers do? So I actually edited a book on sustainability standards a couple of years ago, and it was very in the natural resources sector, and it was very revealing to me how the common threads across these different sectors, including mining, eels, aluminium, and palm oil as well. And basically, standards appear to be, the consensus seems to be standards are really good for convening different multiple stakeholders around common cause. And in this case, in rice, it's a standard, and everyone rallies around the standard. You build consensus across stakeholder groups, and everything's fine. We all feel good. However, the challenge comes, and it's robust, it's science-based. Our standard is based on the International Rice Research Institute's proven practices. So, we are intellectually on solid ground. The challenge comes in scaling those standards and the use of those standards, of those tools, across 150 million fragmented, small-scale rice farmers. No mean feat if you can do that. And so, standards are good for developing tools and building consensus. They're not that good at scaling. For that, you need governments. For that, you need United Nations. For that, you need collaboration. And you need the financial sector to oil the wheels. And so, SRP is really on the cusp of that phase, I would say. We have developed a coalition called the Sustainable Rice Landscapes Initiative, comprising the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, FAO, UNEP, GIZ and IRI, International Rice Research Institute, to work on scaling mechanisms to be funded through the Global Environment Facility. It's working quite well. We have a project funded by the Global Environment Facility here in Thailand that starts now. And we've mobilized something like 50 million in grants so far, but it's a drop in the ocean. So you need collaboration amongst these different stakeholders. You need investment to drive capacity to drive wide-scale adoption of standards across these fragmented, small-scale, resource-poor farmers. And don't forget, half of the world's rice farmers live on $1.50 a day. So the hunger, poverty discussion is acutely relevant for the rice sector. Carbon metrics are really important. We are building a carbon module to add to our standard so that compliance with our SRP standard can be linked to carbon metrics. The pause that we have now in the voluntary market because of the VERA issue, the methodological issue, I think is a temporary one. It will be resolved as methodological issues are ironed out. MRV systems become more effective, higher resolution, lower cost. I was told by Greg that I had to mention MRV this morning in my talk, but it is really an important barrier to wide-scale adoption of carbon in rice markets and to increasing the quality of those credits. I hope that's gone some way to answering the question.
Thank you. Dr. Thirach, related also for the farmers and the carbon credit, but how do you think the nature-based solutions can have a different model and approach, and how do you think can that get more profitability for the farmers?
Thank you. I think right now what happened is that we all focus, we love to disintegrate it and very focused, in which a lot of time when we focus a lot on climate change and we forget about other aspect of the sustainability, we don't realize that what about social aspect, what about the biodiversity, what about the water footprint, what about peace and partnership, in which if we really take the holistic approach, we can achieve more. For example, your question whether how should we have this nature-based solution to generate more revenue. We work on the model called, normally as a business people, we work on return on investment. Make it very specific, financial return on investment. Our organization, we say, we are not for-profit organization, in which is wrong, because said we have to be for-profit organization, but for what kind of profit? Whether it's environmental profit, it's social profit, or it's economical profit, right? And then if we take this approach, and right now, environmental profit is transferable to financial profit. How? By trading the carbon credits. When you preserve the soil, when you take a good care of the water system, when you take a good care of biodiversity, then the plant will get a higher yield. And in the meantime, if the farmer can sequester the organic matters in the soil for 1%, their revenue will increase 50%. Because, if not the yield, say, if they plant, whether it's rice or it's sugar cane, they may earn, say, 10,000 baht per rye, or say about 60,000 baht per hectare. But after they deduct all the expense and fertilizer, whatever, the bottom line is sometimes less than $100 US. But if they get 1% of the organic matters, that is, part of it is from the plant. Because when the plant do photosynthesis, it's accumulated the carbon sink, in which if they do it right, they get a larger number than the plant itself. Plus the biochar, in which for biochar there are two different purposes, whether you use it as the energy or you use it as the soil enrichment. And if they use it as soil enrichment, meaning they put it back to the soil, it's measurable, they can claim for money. And according to Vera, um, they can claim up to 60 to 80% of the amount. Say if they put back the biochar 1,000 kilo into the soil, they can claim about 2,800 kilos of CO2 equivalent. And that's how they have additional income by being more sustainable. The challenge is that they got nowhere to go because as the smallholder farmers, they are pretty much invisible. And that's why we say to do sustainability, they have to work together, to combine together, and to synergize their production. And by doing that, there is their additional income. And also, we talk about water footprint. In many cases, they can make a better value, better quality by using less water as well. So all of this will assure that the food producer will create more revenue and being the frontliner to achieve sustainability without only considering planting more trees, but it's the tree that will end the hunger and also will end the poverty as well.
This is my first time, and I think we need to say it more often. Water footprint. I think no one say that more. I mean, just an example, I hosted a sustainable event in Bali. We brought a rice farmer who actually said like 15 years ago, they don't have to dig so deep. And because of the ecotourism and one pool, a room model, don't know who created that, but we contributed. They have to dig 60 meters or something, they don't see the water. So, yes. Pathorn. So, just so that we can actually maybe have like a circular, full understanding on, what can be adopted when collaborating with three of you together. How does the blockchain technology, the Hedria Guardian, can be used to help the farmers and the nature-based solutions or the SRP platform? How can you help them and with the carbon credit, and also how will they be able to get the payment or trading?
Definitely. I totally agree with Dr. Wyn and Dr. Thirach that, we need to make these farmer projects more sustainable, and we need to find a way to make sure that they get profit from being more sustainable, right? So, and as you see that the farmers have to depend a lot on the data that they provide if they want to claim carbon credit or they want to sell carbon credit, right? So basically, we want to be a technology enabler that make their life easier. How they can capture the data, how much carbon they sequestered in their soil, or how much credit they should be entitled for, so that they can put it on sale and then be more sustainable. So for Hedera, basically we don't just offer the technology, we also have a guardian policy. Basically, it's a tools that, for example, let's say a farmer in Thailand, right? They grow some rice, they grow some vegetable or something like that, and they develop some methodology following like Vera or gold standard. They can have like codify that methodology into the core system, into guardian policy, and then this policy can be shared, can be audited, can be used in a different part of the world. So basically, we make the collaborations across the world easier for the farmer first, and then we also improve the projects and quality of their carbon credit by providing a platform that can capture MRV data and provide the feedback for the potential buyer. So basically, when the potential buyer take a look at their carbon credit, they can see the entire trusted chain. They can see all the methodology on blockchain technology. They can have more confidence in that carbon credit. So as a result, the carbon credit has higher quality, has higher value. Besides of guardian policy that make that process very easy, we also have a carbon credit market where once the farmer has tokenized their carbon credit, they can put it on sale. And we also have AI algorithm to help them to find a potential buyer and match the projects between the buyer and seller. For example, I think seller and buyer matching is also a problem in carbon credit, right? Let's say if you are a company that want to achieve net zero carbon, you need to buy or sponsor some project that have carbon credit, right? What kind of project you need to sponsor? There are a lot of criteria that you have to think about, right? So that's why we also, build a platform that support the entire cycle of carbon credit, from carbon creation to carbon credit retirement. So basically, we want to be a technology enabler for this farmer and make sure that they get profit from doing good for the world.
Actually, we have another here, one of the champion in agriculture and rice, Mr. Arvin Norula. And an old friend of yours. So it's a lot of, I think, universe are conspiring. I met Mr. Arvin last year, we share a panel, and I met Nisha also last year, and now they're neighbors. and I think, please. So, and this question?
Sorry.
I think just to add another question, when you guys share your thoughts, what do you think about the landscape of the carbon credit, and how can, what are the main gaps in implementations, and your personal takeaway?
I have to apologize for interrupting this eminent panel here, but they're talking about my life. I'm the oldest sustainability-based, both in age and in time spent, organic rice producer in the north of Thailand. We're the largest organic jasmine rice producer in the world, and we employ over 3,000 families in Chiang Rai, impacting about 21,000 souls. And we also employ several hill tribe families in the Doi Cham, Doi Wawi area, and have the largest organic egg brand. I'm not bragging. I'm just here to argue with the panel here. Everything they've said is valid, current, and important. The difference is in implementation. Having done, I began impact before the word was coined, way back in 1981. And I've seen how you can actually reduce poverty, improve the environment, and bring happiness to poorer families, farmer families. So, again, not bragging, I'm trying to sell a concept. We employ the hill tribes of Thailand, and we have the UNHCR people out there selling the same concept. The hill tribes of Thailand are disenfranchised. They don't speak Thai. They have no electricity. They have no water. And they have no ID cards. They're not Thai citizens, recognized. So we began working with them way back. And I don't know if any of you know what the YPO is. I'm in the YPO. And several friends in the YPO said they would like to do impact like we were doing. So we joined together and began a company. It started off as a social enterprise called the Hill Tribe Organics. And we employed Hill Tribe families, gave them free hands, got other Hill Tribes families to grow corn, soybeans, yada yada, bought all of that made it into feed, gave the feed for free to the hill tribe families who were producing eggs for us, and we bought the egg at their door every morning. Buy the egg at their door every morning for cash. So we were able, and we had a case study in several French universities who've sent people to spend time with us. We were able to improve the family revenue by a factor of 3. One of the most satisfying moments of my life, I'm going on a bit, but I'll come back to argue with you, if you allow me to. One of the most satisfying moments of my life was when one of the hill tribes in Aka, hill tribesman, grabbed me by the arm and in his language, through a translator, told me, "Thank you, my daughter doesn't have to work in the city at night anymore." That impact is possible. And all of these things that are very highly trained and special people on the stage here are talking about are real, are possible. And I'm going to add to that another story. I have my legacy project, one of the biggest, we saw a slide earlier, a map of Thailand, all red. That's the field fire burning of crops after harvest. So I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to stop it, because I live with these people and I see that smog every year, twice a year, and it's equal to all the emissions from all the flights in the world every year. And frankly, nobody in the West gives a damn because they don't see it. Similarly, the first paper was invented in China. And then came the Industrial Revolution. And the Europeans and the colonists came over and told us the way to make paper is to cut down your trees. They brought the technology and we killed our trees. Wasn't necessary. So I'm going back to the time before we killed our trees, and we're setting up a project to convert. So we went to our farmers and said, what can we do to get you guys to stop burning your rice? And said, simple, buy it. Buy the straw, and we won't burn it. So we went to work and we spent 2 years with several universities in Holland, with the Wageningen University there, with the CMU in Cheng, and universities in Chiang Rai, one in England, and went round in circles to see how we could make money, both for the farmers and ourselves, from straw. So we've developed cellulose pulp, paper pulp, and a byproduct which is organic fertilizer. And from the smokestack, we will be capturing the CO2, putting it into bottles and selling it to the Pepsis and the Cokes of the world, who currently buy carbon dioxide to make Coca-Cola from burning natural gas. So this will be kind of a green CO2. Alternative material, and plus we have organic fertilizer which replaces chemical fertilizer, which is a horrendous carbon footprint. So this is going to happen in Thailand this year starting, and I want Thailand, the ASEAN Directorate is strongly behind it, and the German government is funding our operations to start with. So those are the things that you're talking about that I thought I would get up here just to sell it to you that it can be done. We make profits. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank
Sorry
you.
for interrupting.
No, stay here first. Don't get down first. We will have to wrap the panel, but I think would like your 3-sentence takeaway on the future of carbon credit or landscape, and how can we encourage implementation of it?
So for me, that I feel that the carbon credit future depends largely on the data, MLB data. We need more data for both from the buyer and from the seller, basically to give the public the information what we are doing to get the support from the community.
I think firstly, not all carbon credit are the same. You have sleeping carbon credit under the ocean by very high technology, or you have carbon credit that is working friendly with microorganisms and benefiting the farmer and all lives. Then you should pay the price for a better quality carbon credits. Secondly, respect your food producer, your farmer, because whether they poison your food or they make your food become a healthy food is your choice. Whether you force them to put chemical or you encourage them to make more sustainable consumption is our choice as well. Then respect them and work closely with them, and by working together I think we can achieve a lot more. We can having this as a solution. Nobody among us, nobody really work with the soil, work with the plant, work with the rain. We cannot really plant the trees, it's just too fancy, because after we left 3 days after, all of your plantation will die. They are the one who really protect the earth and work with the soil. Then just collaborate with them, I think. And also for blockchain, we have heard a lot about governance, about something, the green, the corruption in the stock market, whatever. But the fact is that if we have this blockchain to be transparent, traceable, and trustable, then it's a very good solution as well. And that's how we help the food producer to generate more income by stop burning their plants or the grow waste. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. First, let me thank Arvind for bridging theory and practice and making it personal. I think we often forget in our theoretical discussions, and academic discussions that we have all the time, that what we do has a real impact on real people. And you've just brought that home to us very, very eloquently. So thank you very much for your intervention, Arvind. Couple of points, one on blockchain and data. I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks is, of course, reporting. And so blockchain solutions will be really important. I didn't mention that actually Thailand, it's really relevant here, has just gazetted a few months ago a national sustainable rice standard into which we have an input, and today we posted on our website a national interpretation guideline of the SRP standard for Thailand for public consultation. So if you're interested, dive in, have a look, comment, we want your feedback. And third point is relating to carbon credits and so on. Carbon is not a panacea. You hinted at that today. There are unintended consequences, of course. In my first conversation with Nisha, we talked about impact credits. Carbon credits can provide an anchor for broader ecosystem, water credits and so on. But carbon isn't the only thing. And sometimes economics matter more to farmers. However, if we can do this is my final word, if we can use the carbon markets to effect an economic transfer from the OECD countries through carbon credits to millions of smallholder rice farmers, bottom of pyramid rice farmers, that's going to do a huge amount, not just for the SDGs, but for the lives of the kinds of people that Arvind has just described to us so well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For that, I conclude this panel, and Dr. Nisha would like to give appreciation to everybody.
Make one small request to the panelists. There are some members of the audience who want to ask 1 or 2 questions to them, if the panel can stay on for a minute, only for 1 minute.
Maybe in the networking and lunch, because we have amazing panelists today and we are taking their time. I'm so sorry.
So up next, we have a keynote speech that will shed light on the crucial topic of water management for sustainable prosperity. We are honored to introduce Mr. Ganesh Pangare to the stage.
Good afternoon, friends, and Sawadikap. I know I'm between lunch and all of you. I'll try to stick to my time. Maria from Croatia in the morning said that her love was climate action. I cannot say water is my love because my better half is in the room. So I can say that water has been my passion over the last 30-35 years. And it's like when you have to talk about water in 15 minutes, all of you in the room will agree that it's like saying, can you talk in 15 minutes about what is the meaning of life, or something like that. But I will try to stick to some pointers given by Dr. Nisha for this audience today. And again, as we have seen in the whole morning session, it's a diverse audience. So some of you may know some of the things I'm talking, some of you may not, but the whole idea is about trying to put some things together, some concepts together. And I think the most important point being networking and what we have said. So without further ado, let me start. As I said, it's the topic and the title is generic, but let me go to a few concepts and few issues. As we go along, I'll be explaining to you. Again, for this audience, we don't have to, say what is really the challenge today in terms of the number of people on the planet, and therefore we saw the panel before us saying, how do we feed them? How do we feed them sustainably? We need more energy, we need more water, we need more food. All these things combined, how do we really move forward? And what is it that we need to do? If we are sitting in Bangkok, Asia, everybody says this is the century of, it's an Asian century, the economy is booming, cities are buzzing, people are upbeat, but what about water wealth? I think that is something which is really, really important. And can this current boom that we are seeing be sustained? And I would say yes, it can be sustained if you can manage one of the basic pillars of this, the booming growth, that is water. I think that's where the whole heart, at least for this audience is that water is at the heart of all that, the whole booming economy, the big cities that you're seeing around Asia. I wanted to give you this example because then to connect really, and we will come later on also to nature-based solutions, is this, all of you again know Shanghai, which is really one of the hearts of the economic growth areas of China. couple of years ago, because of a big algal boom which happened around the whole area of Shanghai and Wuhan, the big lake Taihu, which supplies water to Shanghai, there came a time when they had to evacuate cities as large as population of 5-8 million, and you can imagine what that means to the whole growth, industrial growth of Shanghai. So this is what I'm trying to say, the connection when we have to look, when we see the whole issue of development, growth, industrialization. And the second point, which I always like to mention, as you grow older, you can get a bit philosophical, is that be it climate change, be it any of these things that we have been talking in the morning, it affects both. You know, it's something, it will affect the people at Scandinavia, or developed countries, as well as Bangladesh or Cambodia in our region. So therefore, there is the whole issue of equity, which we should not forget when we talk in our discussions about ESG or anything that we are talking about, and how all of these changes affect everybody equally, no matter you are rich or you are poor. And this is a picture I like to put up is, the top is a fisherman from Bangladesh, the bottom is a fisherman from Japan. Both of them need, for their livelihoods, clean water and how the ecosystems can be maintained. I think this is very, very important when we look at it, that it is cross-cutting and equity being a very, very important point when we talk in our discussions. And therefore, again, a very generic statement, but for all of us, that the main challenge in front of us today is that the demand is more than the supply. I think that's how, and how do we, as people keep saying, we may need 3 planets for the way we are consuming. You know, so even in water, when we talk about it, it is the whole issue of demand, which is surpassing the supply. And the second, which I'll come back to, is also the quality. It's not also all about quantity, but the quality that we are doing now and what we are putting back into nature. Again, as I said, water scarcity is a global concern. You know, you look at headlines, South Africa running dry, you know, cities in South, which was at, anyway, I'll come back. South African city, which was, you know, it was on the verge. They had 1 week of water supply left. Or you talk of Californian drought, you know, so any part of the world, you will see today that scarcity of water has become a big, big issue. And therefore, it's one of the largest risks today in terms of how do we go ahead. Again, don't worry about this slide, which is, you know, in terms of, you can't read it, but the World Economic Forum in 2015 mentioned, you know, they were looking at what are the risks to industry, what are the risks to the corporate sector. The number 1 risk they had said was the risk of, you know, water. So therefore, companies, corporates also have now understood that if their value chains, if their bottom line, their figures, you know, you're talking of shareholders and bottom lines, if they have to be maintained, then water is one of the most important factors in your growth or expansion or the way you move ahead. So this is purposely, as I said, each slide I can talk for an hour, which I'm not going to do, but one of the most important things, as I mentioned, is it's not only a case of scarcity, but also about quality. People forget that if there is a glass in front of you, it looks nice and transparent. You know, it's not muddy. It's just clear. You think, oh, wow, this is clean water. But if I tell you that it has a cocktail of heavy metals, blah, blah, blah in it, you know, that is what is unseen, and therefore you're not getting involved with it. The cost of treating water is more than actually trying to prevent it from getting polluted. And therefore, this one example, I'm not into this whole pessimistic or alarmist mode, but it's very important to show you this one slide in terms of why the quality is very, very important. Many people, I think before me also, there was this panel on agriculture. Many people have said that let's use the wastewater for agriculture. And some of us have been arguing that untreated wastewater cannot be used for agriculture because it has a cocktail of heavy metals and many, many other pollutants which then go into the crop that you eat. You know, so therefore there's a huge linkage also in terms of bad water, the quality of agriculture that is produced, and your health. I think this is one example from people, you know, I think there is somebody from Godrej from Bombay and there's some other Indians. The city of Delhi, and we had done a study on the spinach which was being used. It had more than 120 times lead in it than what was the WHO standards. And in India, or many parts of the world, we tell a pregnant woman to use and eat spinach because it's good for, iron and blah, blah. But what was happening actually was, doctors were not knowing why there were so much abortions happening, is because the spinach they were eating was having more than 100 times the lead concentration than WHO standards. Why is it important to water? Because the spinach was grown on wastewater, which was untreated. Sorry for this little long thing about the quality, but it gives you the whole linkage of why water quality is a big, big issue in the world. It's not seen and therefore not addressed a lot many times. So I think, as I said, one part of the story is to quickly give you a synopsis of something what is happening in the water sector. But I think it is really, really important, like meetings like this, is that how do we move forward? Are we going to just sit and cry, or what are the good things that are happening around the world? And therefore, I think it's important that we heard some examples in the morning also from McDonald, from the architect from USA, that what are the good things that are happening around the world? How can we learn from Imagine good policies? Like Maria talked about a few things that are happening in Europe. What partnerships are needed, as we go ahead? It's how does a farmer meet a blockchain scientist? So that's, I think, the really the interesting part of how do we go ahead. And finally, what investments will help as we move ahead? I think these are some of the key issues that do not only link to water, but to our sector that we are talking about. I'm not going to, earlier people already talked about the SDGs and the importance. All I'm going to say is that we have 17 SDGs. Number 6 is for water, but water connects all the SDGs. I think that is the underlying thing I would like to highlight from the water perspective, because if you look at health, we all know, if you have bad water, again, diarrhea, and so many deaths. So education, whatever you name it, water cuts across all the 17 SDGs. That's all I'm going to say here. And again, when we were talking, water infrastructure, the solutions that are happening, please understand that no solution is politically insensitive, or there is always politics behind whatever we do. Or they can be, today's good solutions could have a problem in the future. So I think, therefore, we cannot look at technology in isolation of the environmental issues, the policy issues, the social issues. Again, in this room, we all understand this, but I think in practice, we have to be more careful when we go ahead, when we look at solutions. And I think, again, all speakers in the morning also have mentioned about the whole need to work across the silos, and multiple stakeholders. And this I bring to the next part, because I think Nisha had told me, this session was a bit on NBS, nature-based solutions. Before that, I will actually come to the silo effect, which is, in the last 10 to 15 years, it is understood now that we cannot really work with just the water people, with the farmers, with the energy people. Everything is linked. And because the earlier session we had rice or sugarcane, these two crops are one of the most water-intensive growing crops in the world. So if you can make a little dent in the way we manage water for sugarcane or rice, that saving could be used then to feed the cities for water or other crops. And therefore, there's a link. There's therefore the link between water, food, and energy. This is what, in the last 15 years, this concept has now really gone ahead. First, as I said, it started with water, food, energy, and then later on they realized that, no, the ecosystems or the environment is actually at the heart of it. And that's where now when we talk of the nexus perspective, again, as I said, there will be networking later, or if anybody wants to know more about this, one can surely share. But I think the important point one would like to focus here is that it's very important, therefore, to look at the nexus or the interlinkages between the food, energy, and water sectors, and looking at it in the whole way that where does this all come from is the ecosystem or nature is at the heart of all of this. Again, taking something from the morning example, somebody talked of electric vehicles. I think, again, McDonald, you were talking about. I'm not a skeptic of electric vehicles, but I can tell you one thing. It really burns or saddens me when I see a fossil fuel being used to a generator to generate electricity and then being given to the electric vehicle. Or if I take it from the positive side, to run that electricity on, say, hydropower, you again need water, dams, and therefore that connection. And what I feel is that this is purposely I'm putting this out, that maybe at lunch or we can have, debate, is therefore in a city you can have the rich guy or a woman drive the electric vehicle with a car. But at the same time, you know that the farmer has not got electricity to, water his fields. There is no electricity at home. The children have to, how do they study? So I'm just trying to say that at one side, and this is where I said earlier, we have to be careful that when we start jumping up and down, that we have found a nice solution. We also have to look at the other side of the story. What could be its ramifications as we go down? I think that I put 2-3 slides because Nisha said, this was a session on NBS, nature-based solutions. Again, I can talk a bit about this because I worked with the International Union for Conservation of Nature for 8 years, and 2008 at our World Conservation Congress, actually this was the first time the word nature-based solution, ecosystem-based adaptation had started to gain ground, and IUCN has been a pioneer in pushing this concept globally. Again, without getting into the theory jargon, we were also questioned at that time, it's very nice to say this nature-based solution, but what does it mean really in real life? And I thought that it's important to give 1 or 2 examples from that aspect. So, when we look at the whole landscape from the top to bottom, as you come from the hills down to the coast, there are various ways and places where nature-based solutions, ecosystem-based adaptations have been used. And again, without confusing you all, let me just jump to examples of what do really nature-based solutions mean in real life, other than the... so this is, as we all know, Beijing is one of the most populated cities in the world. Beijing gets its water from the Mune watershed or the Mune Dam. But what has happened now is they have decided that instead of treating water, which is bad, the cost of keeping the water clean in the catchment is much more cheaper than treating it later. And therefore, how have they worked with farmers so that the farmers also, their pesticides, fertilizers do not come into the catchment? So what I'm trying to say is that please, again, I don't want you all to go back with the story that nature-based solutions are the only answer. The answer is hybrid, I still feel, which is how do you work with the gray and the green solution. The gray being the dam was built, so that's really the water storage. But then how do you work with farmers, with nature, that the watershed protection through grassland, forestry, I mean, let's not get into the details. But this is one example, therefore, of real life of what does nature-based solution mean. I know this slide came one before, the next slide of an example I was going to give. But this is the slide we talked about leadership in the morning. My little take is that, yeah, you can groom leaders, but I think its leadership is also not about the Ban Ki-moon or, with due respect, but it is also about a school teacher somewhere or a elected representative at a provincial level who can be leaders. I love this example because this is a monk in one of the basins in Yom basins in Thailand. This is a monk who moves around with a laptop, connected with to his mobile to the latest technologies, and he's given the leadership to get the community together around for developing the Yom River Basin. So the point here I want to make is more about the leadership that we were talking about in the morning. It can come from, champions like all of you sitting in the room, but it doesn't always have to be somebody we are looking high up on the pedestal, but it is from, the community, from the industry or wherever we come from. This was the last example I wanted to, I can see the hand time, for the example for nature-based solution. Again, one great example from China, but Rotterdam, many other cities are doing. Again, coming back to our architect friend, he talked about smart city. A smart city is, again, as we said, is a city, smart city which can get water to its citizens. I think that is the heart, again, one of the hearts of a smart city. Again, forget what the detailing, what is happening in this city or many cities across China, or what they call as sponge cities. What they're saying is every year water falls. How can we let that water go down into the ground, recharge it, and really reuse it, and use the water well? So it's in one line, it is nothing great theory, nothing great, rocket science. But so what they've done is they're removing all their pavements now, because if you see, most of our cities are so paved that there's no place for the water to go down. So in China, what they've started is that when we start developing new places, they are already putting this in place, that the water should be really going down. It's just managing your water better in a sensible way. So this is a great example of sponge city where it is, again, under the term nature-based solutions. Nisha had told me, and this is completely, quickly 2 minutes of 1 minute, I will run through that. For the industry and the corporate sector, there are very, very interesting initiatives that are happening. So what I'm doing now is just running 2-3 slides of, I'm sure you all will know better, the World Business Council of Sustainable Development has come out with a fantastic manual for CEOs for water. You have the Alliance for Water Stewardship. These are, I thought, Nisha had told me, mention a few things that are happening also for the corporate world. So I just thought I'll put in a few things. The UN Global Compact has also come up with the water stewardship program, and which is going on. And this is more for CEOs. And so, as I said, there are not a few, but there are many now initiatives around the world where they are looking at how you can audit water, the disclosures regarding, how much water is used, what is happening. So I think, as I mentioned, these are the important initiatives like the World Business Council on Sustainable Development, their water program, or CERES, and many others. I don't know if you can read this, but this is, as I said, my last slide with a few gray hair and age catching up. I think I can be philosophical. I always say that water is free when it falls from the sky, but the price one has to pay for its mismanagement is enormous, which no one in the world can afford. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh Pangare, for the knowledge you have shared. Your keynote speech has undoubtedly broadened our perspectives and inspired us to take meaningful action towards sustainable water management. Thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes we'll be breaking out for lunch, but we have a very special lunch planned by So Bangkok, and we have the F&B director here with us to share. Please, Mr.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'll keep it short because I know your bottoms are sore and your tummies are rumbling. Yeah, I can get a better view. I'm not that tall. Okay, just very quickly, yes, I'm Thomas. I'm in charge of the kitchen, the stewarding, the service, and the culinary team here in Seoul, Bangkok. Okay, quick summary about me. I was a chef for 26 years before I moved into F&B management. And I think that will tie in to a lot of what we're discussing here today. Okay, I've got two main passions in my life. One of them is going to be my children, and the second one is booze. No, just kidding. And the second one is Mother Earth. And I think these ones tie hand in hand, because I think it's very important about what we're doing to the world today and what we're doing with the produce and what we're going to do with the future for our children. Okay, I think there's too many chemicals in general, which have been touched base on by Ganesh and various speakers about what's happening with the produce today. If I look at one fast food chain, for example, they've got beautiful French fries in a nice red box. Okay, they're using a russet potato, which is very prone to weathering, it's very prone to blemishes, it's very prone to insects eating them. Okay, but it doesn't look beautiful when you have this in your French fries on your video or when you go to the fast food chain. I won't mention name, but you can get the idea. So how do they stop it? How do they make them so uniformed? How do they make them so perfect? Well, they're pumping so many chemicals on these potatoes during their harvesting. Okay, and not only that, rather than pumping the chemicals on these potatoes, no one is allowed to enter into that field for 5 days before they can harvest the potatoes. And I think this is very sad about what's happening with the food today. Okay, and if I look in general, I think everybody needs to make a little bit of a conscious effort and little steps, because everybody make a little step collectively is going to make a big impact on the world today. And what are we doing in the hotel? Well, I can start with the example for the dinner tonight. Okay, I'm just going to take one ingredient. I'm not going to lecture you, okay, at all, because I know chefs, we have a tendency to say bad words and insult people, so I apologize if I do that. I'm trying very hard to keep it tame. Okay, I did work with a couple of notorious chefs, Mr. Ramsey. Anyway, if I look at the ingredient for one particular dish that we're using tonight, because all the ingredients in general have been resourced locally. Okay, and I think that's very important as well, not only to help reduce the carbon footprint, but also we can trace the farmer. So knocking around later on, you'll see my friend, Chef Nick. He's wearing a chef jacket, big smile. He's always super friendly. So we can trace the farm, and we do. We go back to the farmer. We go back to the roots of the product. Okay, it touches base, as Mr. Ganesh mentioned earlier, about the water. So we want to make sure that the water they're pumping on, for example, the watermelon is clean. They're not injecting so many chemicals into the product. They're not spraying so many chemicals that we don't even know how to pronounce onto the food. Okay, and then we bring it to Bangkok. I'd like to say it was brought by, horse and cart or an elephant, but okay, in the future. And so when we got this product, we're treating it very naturally. So it's got the taste of the way Mother Earth meant for it to be. Very natural, very clean. And another form of sustainability, which we touch base on, is not only about the product and how we're growing it and how we're cooking it, it's also about eating it and wastage. Now, I used to study this one a lot as well when I was a chef, and I still do. And a third of all food produced is wasted. And I think that's really, really sad. That's really, really sad. So we're going to do our effort from the hotel side to make sure that the food that we're producing for you tonight and today is very clean and very safe, very sustainable. Okay, what can you do from your side? Well, as I just mentioned, a third of all food is wasted. So I'm a funny guy because I'm a chef. I'll be weighing the bin tonight. And after you set dinner, I can see, is a third of the food that we produced for you wasted? And in which case, I hate you all. Or, less than a third is going to be wasted, in which case, I love you all. Thank you for listening. I'm Thomas.
It was a special request that we made to the Hotel So to talk about the food sustainability, and actually we took a good care in careful selection of the hotel, and Dr. Thirach has been helping me with that. So this hotel is very sustainable according to a sustainability report, but also if you see the water bottles that you have on your tables are glass bottles, so these are recycled, no plastic. If you notice at the tea station, there were no sachets, they were all kept in the containers, and the food here is sustainably sourced, and you saw some vegan options. Tonight the dinner is also, I'm sorry to the meat eaters, but then we have vegan dinner set course meal tonight. So that's why. And another thing that why this hotel is sustainable is because it's closer to the BTS, so sustainable mobility. It has coverage of the area, the tuk-tuk that goes around in this area is also e-tuk-tuk, which you can use by the app MoveMe if you are, traveling here. So, yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll come back by 2:20. Yeah, okay, thank you.